Well, hello there. Today on Wake Up Your Magic, we have a premier Harvard psychologist who literally is launching her new book, Your Creative Brain. In fact, you won't believe it. She is scheduled for Good Morning America and all the top talk show hosts. And here she is, right here. You gotta stay tuned. We're just so excited to have her. As a matter of fact, we want to talk a little bit about our theme today. Our theme today is the secret sauce, that magical ingredient that complements every waking moment. And my question to you out there watching today is, what if you possess something so free, so sophisticated, powerful, it could change your health, business, personal, and professional life? And yet you say, this is just for kids, artists, musicians, talented ones. Certainly not for me. But again, you want to stay tuned for this dynamic recipe we're going to be sharing for a more fulfilling life all day, every day. Don't you love that music? Hi, I'm Susan Guild, and we want you to be that shining star, that wake up your magic shining star. On this show, we love having guests that take risks, who follow their dreams, their intuition, while honoring their passion, their creative ministry to life. People always say, just what the heck is this Wake Up Your Magic? Wake Up Your Magic is all about transforming your life through the creative energies within. And with that being said, I want to introduce Dr. Shelly Carson. And Dr. Shelly, we'll call you Dr. Shelly today, is an educator, a professor, a teacher, and an expert in creativity today. And we're just so excited to have you here. Welcome, Shelly.
Thank you so much, Susan. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a fan of your show, and so it's a real privilege to be on the air with you.
Well, thank you. You know, I said earlier about that you are going on all these talk show hosts, but just as we talked just now, you said you were on NPR this morning.
That's right. Well, they taped it this morning, and it hasn't aired yet, so I think it'll be on in a week or two.
Oh, that's so exciting. And of course, I said you're an expert in creativity. And right off the bat, I want to introduce Shelly's book, and then she's going to tell us a little bit about herself and what she means by creativity. But right here, you can see her new, brand new book, isn't it? I mean, it's just hot off the press, Your Creative Brain. And I love, we can see the image also on the screen, and you can see it here on the table. But I love how that eye pops out and how we're talking about maximizing imagination, productivity, and innovation. But I alluded to something, and we're going to even see a little picture of this when you're teaching, but you teach students about creativity. You're studying creativity. You're studying about the brain. Tell me what you mean by creativity.
Well, there's a lot of different definitions for creativity. It's a difficult concept to nail down. The working definition that I use is creativity is the ability to take bits of information, whether you gather them from your environment or from your own inner world, and combine them and recombine them in novel and original ways to solve problems and to enrich your life.
Now you got to slow down, because I had a hard time taking this all in, because it's so innovative and so up to us to be unique. So tell us again that, because this is setting the stage for what you do.
Okay. Well, my personal definition of creativity is that it's the ability to combine information that you get from the outside world and from your own inner world in novel and original ways to solve your problems in your life and also to enrich your life.
So that is so huge. And let's go a step further with that. So that's Dr. Shelly's definition.
That's my definition.
All right. And you also teach Harvard students, and they have come up, and maybe you can just give a couple of their definitions.
Well, one of them that you'll love, Susan, is creativity is magic.
Aha!
So somebody must have watched your show. Creativity is the ability to express yourself so that other people can learn from your unique experience. That's one of my students' definitions. Another definition that I like is creativity is the ability to bring order out of chaos. So I like that one. And the one that researchers use, you may not like this one, but this is sort of a working definition of creativity that those who work in the field use, is that creativity has two factors. First of all, it's original and novel, and secondly, it's adaptable or useful in some way to a certain segment of the population.
Well, you know, you have been studying all this with your brain sets, and we're going to see an image in a few minutes of how you have put this in, as you say, working order so people can understand, because you're really a scientist and you're really a researcher doing this work with your creative brain. But let's go back. You started somewhere. You know, I imagine this angel with wings, you know, as a stewardess, and then you got to this place. Can you tell us how you started and what led to this amazing work you're now doing, Shelly?
Be glad to. So you're absolutely right. I started out as a stewardess. I'm not going to tell you how many decades ago.
Oh,
but
you can.
you know it was a long time ago if I was hired as a stewardess and not a flight attendant.
Aha.
So I flew for 18 years and loved every minute of it. I was so fortunate to be able to fly all over the world, to meet all kinds of people. People are at their best and their worst when they're on an airplane.
Yeah, yeah.
But one of the things that happened when I was in that job was I started realizing that people have all these different ways of thinking. Everybody doesn't think just like I do. And I became fascinated with the human mind and how it operates and how people can think in such different ways. And if we look at everything around us was conceived by a mind. How does that happen? So these things became sort of driving questions in my life, but they were in the background.
And?
So I continued to fly, and then at one point, my husband, by the way, was a pilot, and when we had our children, I was packing a bag one day to take my children on a trip to Florida, and my 3-year-old daughter walked into the room and saw me packing the bag, and she said, "Mommy, are you leaving us again?" And I said, "No, honey, we're going on vacation." And she said, "Mommy, my heart gets heavy every time you leave." So at that point, I decided that my career as a flight attendant was over, and I became a stay-at-home mom. But I never got past that quest to learn more about the human mind. When my kids got to a certain age, I would say, I woke up my magic, I went back to school, took a couple of courses, and realized that I really did want to become a psychologist. So at that point, I applied to the Harvard PhD program in psychology, and to this day, I'm absolutely certain I was an admissions error.
Oh, Shelly.
Yes, but anyway, that's where it started.
Wow.
So when I went to school, I studied psychopathology, which is research into abnormal psychology or mental disorders, and I became fascinated with how many highly creative people had inner demons. And I thought, maybe I want to look into this some more. And that led to my study of creativity, which of course, when you study it more deeply, you find out that only a small number of people who are creative also have these inner demons.
But isn't it interesting when we're seeking and we're probing how that small little piece stands out, and then it pulls at our sleeves, doesn't it, to go further?
It definitely pulled me. It definitely called to me. And I couldn't avoid it. I couldn't say no to it anymore. So I ended up going back to school.
And you commuted from Marshfield. You know, people watching the Wake Up Your Magic show always wonder how people do this. And of course, we're all about inspiring them. And you commuted, and you had a couple of quotes that you loved. And one is about if one advances confidently in the direction. Can you tell us that quote?
If one advances confidently in the direction of his dreams, he or she, we have to add the she,
right.
Can meet with success unimagined in common hours.
And, you know, I love how you put that graphic together. I love that people are going to be able to go get a pencil and write that down, because that really was very important for you, wasn't it?
Advancing confidently in the direction of your dreams.
Yeah.
And that's what you're all about as well.
Right, and that confidence. I feel so strongly that we can give people that extra push, and when they feel comfortable, they'll move forward.
Exactly.
With that confidence. And then you have one that you like for yourself about being an engaged, will you tell us, an engaged explorer?
Be an engaged explorer of the universe. So my feeling is never quit learning. Go explore your world, explore your inner world and your outer world.
So you as a professor now having the opportunity to teach people, it's got to be incredible, and then you continue to do your research. So let's go a little step further. So it took, what, 3 years?
To get my PhD. Well, the first thing I did, Susan, was I went back and I took a couple of courses at the Harvard Extension School, which we're very, very lucky to have that resource so close to us. And one of the things that I think is great is that the course that I originally took that determined in my mind that I wanted to be a psychologist is a course that I'm now teaching.
Oh, and
so
I love the name. Tell
fun.
the name.
That's really fun for me. But I do have to correct one thing, and this is only important to academics. I'm not actually a professor, I'm a lecturer.
Okay. But you're a professor in our mind who's watching today, right? But the point is, tell us the name of that class, and tell us, I hear that name, and I've still got to figure out how to come in and take it.
Okay. Well, the course I think you're talking about is my creativity course, and it's called Creativity, Madmen, Geniuses, and Harvard Students.
I love that.
And anyone can sign up for it and take it. It's streamed online, and I have students from all over the world that are taking it. This semester we have 121 students from 5 different continents. And it's really fun because they get to interact with each other, and we get to, they're amazing people from all over the world. Some of them are highly creative, and some of them are taking the course, as one person told me, because he wants to figure out how his spouse operates. He doesn't understand creativity, but he will find that he's creative before this semester is over.
That's so cool. And then the course that you took was
abnormal psychology.
And you're teaching that.
And I'm teaching that too.
And so a lot of this abnormal psychology and the creativity course that you're teaching, everything you're doing, commuting, sticking to your passion, sticking to what you love, really led to this wonderful book that we've just alluded to. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about the book, and then we'll go into the 7 steps that you talk about with creativity. We'll show that graphic. But just tell us about writing. And I mean, if you look at the graphic right now online, you can write on, you're online, right? Right on the screen. You'll see these wonderful colors. You'll see this aliveness. So just tell us about writing it, telling us what the consumer is going to get, what people will learn. You've got very interesting chapters. So I'm going to let you give your wonderful talk about your book.
Okay, thank you. Well, it was inspired by both my creativity research and my abnormal psychology research. And I'll tell you how those two interact here. But the first thing that I found when I was doing my research is I expected, like many people do, I suppose, that there are creative people and then there are not so creative people. But when you really look at the research, what you find is that everybody has this amazing creative brain. So we are all creative. We all have a great deal of creative potential. All we have to do is actualize it. Now, that's the first message of the book. The second message of the book is one of the ways that you can make yourself more creative is to try to get into the same brain states that highly creative people do when they're solving creative problems.
Interesting.
So we want to go through the creative process, and the creative process involves several different states of brain, if you will. And we'll talk about those in a minute if you want. But you need to know when to put your brain in which state at which point in the process.
Well, and you know, I have to tell a little secret. Yesterday we were setting up the set, and I imagined the feel that I want as a creative person, but I thought one of your chapters of executing, I couldn't communicate exactly what I wanted. I wanted it to be sophisticated because you have this amazing work you're doing. I wanted a touch of creativity because, as I said in the beginning, creativity is way beyond crayons and markers and things. But I wanted that feel. But you tell in the book, actually, exercises how to move forward and to go from each side of the brain, don't you?
Right. So that's one of the important things I think about the brain is how do you get into a particular brain set? And I have added some exercises for each of the brain states, which I call brain sets, because they're sort of like the biological equivalent of a mindset.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Let's say that again, and then we're going to show a picture of the 7 mindsets or brain sets.
Okay.
And of course, how you do that with the word create. So.
Right. So most of your listeners have already experienced the idea that being in a different mindset changes the way they see their environment and themselves and their future. If you get into different brain sets, it does the same thing. It changes the way you see your environment and the way you approach problems. And these are brain activation patterns, so I call them brain sets rather than mindsets or brain states.
So I want to define 2 things. So,
Sure.
So we've got that, and that. Let's do the CREATES, and then I want to go to that other graphic that I was fascinated by that we talked about earlier.
Okay, so let me explain it a little bit like this. The other graphic we were talking about, which is the pathways to creativity, or the creative process, it's a sort of a step-by-step of what you need to do to go to create order out of chaos, if you will.
Which is a big thing for you, big thing.
Yes,
yeah,
I think so.
Well,
to bring something out of nothing.
Right.
Okay, so that's sort of the pathway you take, and the creates brain sets that I talk about in the book are the tools that you can use to go through that pathway.
So in other words, we're on a journey.
We're on a journey.
And that secret sauce, that little
And the sauce
ingredient.
includes our tools.
Okay.
So we can think of it as a recipe with a number of ingredients.
So let's go through. C is for connect. Let's just quickly tell those, and then we've got lots of other goodies for us.
All right. So the connect brain set is a brain set where you're able to generate a number of different solutions to a single problem. And it's a type of brain state where you have, I hate to use such a big word, but disinhibited. So if you disinhibit your conscious thought process, it allows some of that information that's forming in the unconscious parts of your brain to feed forward.
And then let's go right through them. Let's go to reason, envision, absorb.
Okay, so the next brain set is the reason brain set. That's the brain set where most people spend a lot of their waking thinking time. Reasoning is logical, sequential thought, so that you can move step by step toward accomplishing a goal.
And then we go to envision.
Envision is the brain state that's associated with mental imagery, which I know that you like to use, and also with imagination.
And then we go to absorb.
Absorb is a brain state in which you are uncritically and non-judgmentally taking in, just absorbing stimuli from your environment, just like a sponge would.
And I'm so glad you said that, because I wanted to use that analogy of a sponge. That's absolutely great. And then we go to transform.
Transform is a brain state which some people find themselves in. It's a state where you may feel depressed or anxious, and you can actually use that negative energy and transform it into creative work.
And then E is evaluate.
Evaluate. Everybody, at some point, you have to quit generating interesting and creative ideas and evaluate how truly useful they will be for you. And you have to use different parts of your brain to do this. So that's the evaluate state. And then the stream brain state, which is the last one, is a state in which you're in a state of flow, where things are just flowing out naturally, whether you're writing, whether you're performing musically, whether you're performing on stage. It's a way where you're in the zone, so to speak, and things are just naturally flowing out. And each of these things needs a somewhat different brain activation pattern.
Well, you can see that this book is absolutely amazing. You know, one thing we do on the Wake Up Your Magic show, I mean, we've just given you a little taste, is we always ask our guests to give our viewers a Wake Up Your Magic tip, because remember, this show's about inspiring people to do wonderful things.
Okay, so the one thing that I would recommend to everybody is absorb knowledge like a sponge. Take in everything around you. Nothing is too trivial to be combined and recombined in a novel way, and you never know what it is you're going to learn today that's going to be very useful in your creative endeavors tomorrow.
Oh my God, I'd love to be in one of your lectures, because, you know, that was my favorite letter, and my favorite mine was absorb.
Mine too. That's where I spend my time. So one of the things I talk about in the book is everybody has a particular brain state that's their mental comfort zone. And one of the things we want you to do is move out of your comfort zone and experience some of the other brain states as well.
Which is, of course, the wholeness of what you're doing.
Exactly. You need to experience most of them in order to be productive creatively.
So another thing we love to do on the Wake Up Your Magic show is you've given us a tip, which I think is wonderful. It's a very worldly, to absorb, to be aware. And then we want to know about Shelly. So if somebody, Shelly, gave you a magic wand and they said to you, I would like to do something I'm not doing, what would that magic wand electrify in you, Dr. Shelly Carson?
Well, to be honest with you, what I would like to do right now is have more time to be creative and I have a little more time to be creative myself. I would love to take piano lessons, to take watercolor lessons, and eventually that will happen.
You know, I think that is an amazing piece for people to hear, because I think when you're watching something, you get, well, they've got it all, but we always want to do that other piece. Another thing, this is our brain for today.
I love it. Hey, my brain feels like that a lot of the time, believe me.
So you now have shared with us a Wake Up Your Magic tip, which I think is wonderful for people on their journey to become a star. And in case you just tuned in, you are listening to the Wake Up Your Magic show, and we do have about to be very, very well-known author as our guest. And you now have a new website, which has been launched for your book. And I want you to tell us a little bit about how you prepare that. You have a nice little section, Creativity and Action. And tell us the name of your website, how they can find you.
Good. The website is shellycarson.com. And Shelly has an E in it, so it's SHELLEY, carson.com. And you can write to me right from the website. There's an area where you can send me an email, and I'll be glad to respond to you. And you can also see Susan right on my website, because she is one of my original Creativity and Action people. And my Creativity and Action section is an area where I would love to invite all of your watchers, all of your viewers, to send in a creative idea that's changed their life. And we know from research that creativity breeds creativity. So the more of our ideas we can share with each other, the more we'll cross-fertilize and stimulate and inspire each other.
You know, right there, I think is such a core to what we're talking about today, is going to that piece, again, that secret sauce of creativity begets creativity. I mean, how beautiful is that? So again, I love people to tell us lots of things over and over because I keep thinking your website's going to be your creative brain. So the name of your website, again, is?
ShellyCarson.com.
So not Dr. Shelly Carson, Shelly Carson.
You can reach me if you tweet. You can Twitter me at tweet me, whatever. You can follow me at Dr. Shelly Carson without a period after the doctor. But the website itself is just ShellyCarson.com.
And I'm fascinated by the website, and I want everybody to go to it, to ShellyCarson.com. The feeling of the sun and the light, and I think of you as a light worker, as many of our Wake Up Your Magic guests are, is an interesting feeling, kind of versus the cover of your book. Tell me about that image on the front of your website.
Well, to me, that image on the front of the website just inspires me to want to go out and explore the world. And I love the way that the graphic artist ghosted the word imagination behind your creative brain, because that is definitely one of the major aspects of your creative brain, is your imagination.
Oh, I love it. You know, we've had such a good time with you here, and of course we've talked about your website, how to get in touch with you, how to watch for her on all the morning shows. And before I conclude, there are a couple of things I'd like to mention. First of all, if you have any feedback on the show, I would love to hear from you at sueguild@mac.com. It's on the screen. And I always conclude with a little thought. And my thought for today is, wake up, make life your very best. Know you have that secret sauce, that recipe for a more fulfilled life. Understand we all possess we all have this amazing brain that wants to be utilized. Check out Shelly's 7 steps to maximize imagination, productivity, and innovation in your life. Explore your mindset as you connect, as you reason, as you envision, as you absorb, transform, evaluate, and stream. And yes, Shelly will tell you to unplug that cell phone, your internet. Be an engaged explorer of the universe. Give your ideas a chance to develop into that new cognitive space. And let your dreams do the rest. And you know, Shelly, we always like to save a little tidbit for last on the Wake Up Your Magic show. So we would like and invite you really to all check out my new blog. It is the Wake Up Your Magic blogspot.com. So you can write me and let me know of other guests like Shelly, of things you would like to know. And in conclusion, I am so happy you came. I wrote Shelly out of the blue, and I feel so fortunate. You know, my work, I've been studying creativity for many, many years, and now I've got a researcher telling me why it's happening, what it's all about, that my intuitive feelings, you'll see my little chart on the screen, were right there. So Shelly, thank you so much. We hope you'll come back to Wake Up Your Magic and enjoy.
Thank you, Susan. It's a pleasure to be here.